if you were wanting to pitch someone to collaborate and partner with them and build a relationship with them, maybe your goal is to monetize, maybe your goal is to get more exposure, maybe your goal is to get in front of a different audience or community that you haven't been able to tap into yet. Whatever
Right.
that is, if you learn this method, it can work for you. Hey, Tori, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for being here with us today. As you know, I have just adored getting to know you and your incredible business and brand in a lot of different facets over the last year, but would love for you to share with our community a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Okay. So I am a yoga and wellness teacher in Birmingham, Alabama. So I help people get physically fit, but also there is a mental and spiritual component to what I do. So we kind of hit all aspects of self at once. And I found you on Instagram and I thought, okay, I think I can do this pitch thing and align myself with brands that have the same values that I have as far as um, people's wellness in general. And it's been an amazing thing to pitch brands to be able to try to monetize content, but also to learn how to pitch myself and my own personal brand, which we've gotten into a lot. So that's been a very cool arc over the last handful of months that I've known you, just in different ways that I'm able to grow and different ways that I can pitch myself for different opportunities.
Yeah, and that's what I think is so unique to kind of your approach to creating content, monetizing the content, and pitching is that you're not, someone that considers themselves a fashion blogger or a lifestyle influencer or, you know, just a content creator that's creating content off of the things that they wear or the stuff the makeup that they put on their face or whatever that is. Because I think that tends to be because of Instagram and TikTok. That tends to be when we think of a content creator, that tends to be what people think of. But you're actually a coach and you have your own offers and you have your own services, but yet you still are able to monetize your content and you're able to pitch yourself. So can you share with me a little bit about how your approach to it as a coach with pitching?
Um, yeah, because at first I definitely thought, oh, I should pitch skincare, makeup, all this stuff that we see. And it became very evident to me very quickly that that was not the avenue for me, but that it could be something where I could pitch myself as a content creator to add even more value to certain brands for their ideal clients. Of if you are a vitamin company or if you have an amazing bath soak, let's take this idea of wellness and just add more layers to it that I can help with. So it's something that for me as a yoga teacher, a meditation instructor, I can say, how else can we approach this? How can we place your product in it so that you have that benefit? But what else can I give to you that would be valuable to the person who's potentially buying from you?
What made you kind of even think that this could be something that could work for you? A lot of times people say, but I'm not a blogger, I'm a coach, or I'm not an influencer, I'm an educator, or I'm a course creator, or I run memberships. Like, will this work for me? So how were you able to kind of figure that out for yourself?
Well, I think you explained it really well when you shared with me the difference between sort of being an influencer versus a content creator, because it gave me the ability to go to a brand and say, I can do X, Y, and Z for you. And it's not something that I'm necessarily trying to market to my audience, although I will, but this is something that you can use and you can put it anywhere that you need to put it in the marketplace. So it was really just jumping in and like crossing my fingers, saying a prayer and going for it.
And that's what else is really unique is that I think in today's world, and a lot of times we hear this term user generated content, UGC, where it's basically content creation, but it's generated with kind of the brand using it in mind. It's not necessarily like, hey, we want you to create this content and then put it on your TikTok or your Instagram, and then that's what we're really paying you for, is for that exposure and that engagement. It's like, no, we're going to actually just pay you to create the content. And then we will take that content and then we'll kind of do whatever we want to with it. We'll run ads to it, or we'll put it on our own TikTok or our own Instagram. And I think that that is starting to become more and more of a thing, especially as apps get more technologically advanced and developed. Like with TikTok, it's very easy to edit a video on that platform. You don't need to be some kind of savvy video editor to do that. And creators are able to, now that kind of technology is caught up a bit, creators are able to be a little bit more creative in how they're even on the development side and the editing side of creating content, which makes just the content in and of itself more valuable. And so could you share a little bit about, maybe some of the companies that you've worked with, or some of the campaigns that you've been able to pitch and negotiate and land, and the kinds of content that you're generating for them?
One of them that was so interesting for me was Nutrafol, which we had talked about on previous PIP calls. So I thought, well, I'll just reach out to them too and see if I can get some sort of deal for their products. And that worked, but it allowed me an avenue to create wellness content for them. That was something that I think was useful for them, but it was also really useful for me and my business of what I do. So that was something that it just kind of like flip-flopped the script for me. Another one that I'm working for is 𝗄𝐴𝐴, which is a bath soap that I saw on Goop. And I was like, well, let me reach out to them and see what happens. And it's something that has went from their product placement to how can I accelerate my growth through their channels. So it's been really, really interesting to jump into that.
I love the angle that you take about, yes, I can do just product placement, or I can do a swipe up here, tap here. I still call it swipe up. I can do that for the brand, or I can actually start coming into the brand space and creating content for them based off of my expertise and what it is that I have to share, which I think is amazing. Walk us through a little bit of, how that journey has looked like from, for you. I think, when did you first dive into the PIP community? Do you remember? January. Was it of this year?
Right at the beginning of the year.
Yep. And then what did that first month or two look like for you?
It was so much of a mindset shift. And I think that's where you've been the most valuable to me as a coach. Just opening my eyes to what different possibilities could be for me, and that I can initiate contact with a brand, and that sky's the limit of anything that I can come up with that could be valuable to this company. And I can engineer it any way that I need to for myself, but just really going for it and putting myself out there. And even different things. I remember one company we talked about, and you said, I think you need to look like way, way down the end of the road. Like, I could see this coming into a big collab for you of a wellness package with this really big company, not just you creating some content for them to use on their Instagram, but like, really, where could you take this? And so any brand that I've talked to since then, that's always kind of in the back of my head of what's the limit here? It's anything that I put on it. It's anywhere that I want to go with it. And I've kind of taken that into different avenues of how I do workshops here now, different people that I bring in. We talked about Megan Roop at one point, and I hosted her last weekend. So just to see how that can kind of happen, and like, how do I just make choices to align myself with certain people and put myself in that sphere? As soon as you change your belief about what you're capable of, which is something that you were instrumental for me with, then the game changes.
Absolutely. And I love that, using Megan as an example, because not only is she an incredible human being, but she has built an amazing brand. And I think a lot of times when you think about, there may be content creators out there that want to work with other creators and other, people in their field, but they're like, but I don't know, what should I do? And I'm like, well, you just got to ask.
Like, you them and you say, will you come and do this with me? And they might say yes, if you take that step.
Well, that's a great example. Will you chat with me a little bit about how that process happened? Because I remember we had that conversation months ago about if you want to start collaborating, because what that also does too, and why I love talking to you, Tori, is that you don't really use pitching or think about pitching just in that one that
Yeah.
one kind of frame of like, I'm going to pitch this brand and they're going to pay me X amount of dollars. And then I'm going to post this content on my page. You think about it as like, no, how can I actually start building, a really deep relationship with this brand and actually come into their company, host workshops for their employees, or, create a retreat and they come in and sponsor it, or, whatever it may be. And then another great example is here with Megan, is that you actually looked at another creator, another entrepreneur in your space that you wanted to align with.
Yeah.
That I think the beginning of this year, if I would have told you, hey, you're going to do something with Megan Roop in 9 months, you would have been like, are you like smoking something? Like, what is happening? And here we are. So definitely walk me through that.
It was one of the brands that I reached out to, and they said, well, let me put you in touch with our PR company and we can talk about what different, project budgets might look like, or what they would like to see come out of this. And I looked them up and I saw their client list and I was like, oh my goodness, they have so many people that I could only imagine my name being in that conversation with them. And Megan was one of them. And I thought, oh, she's just amazing. I love everything she does. And I can't believe that I'm talking to this PR company that's done so much to help catapult her career, although she's amazing and she's done a lot of that for herself. And so I reached out to her at a certain point where she was talking about doing pop-ups, and she has a couple people that teach for her on her app, and they were doing some stuff in different parts of the country. And so that was just a different sort of pitch for me of, okay, I'm going to message her and see if she responds, which she did immediately, because she's awesome like that. And she was so sweet. And we just started going back and forth about like when this could happen and what spaces might be available. And at that point I'm still under construction for a facility, but I was like, well, let me see if I can get into another one to train my clients. And then you can just come and do this with me. And she did. And so that happened last Saturday, and she was just amazing and killed it. But it was awesome then to get to connect with her in person and to have some really great conversation about what we do just in the fitness and wellness space and how that translates for her into the social space. But like you said, just to have that happen 9 months ago, I would not have even thought that that was a possibility.
And that's what I love about what we do inside Pitch It Perfect. And I think that this is really what makes it so unique and makes it stand out from anything else out there. And I think this is why Pitch It Perfect has been and still is so successful, is because we really focus in on, it's not just about pitching, it's about building relationships. And that's why it doesn't matter if you're a blogger, an influencer, a scuba diver, a yoga instructor, a doula. If you are wanting to pitch someone to collaborate and partner with them and build a relationship with them, maybe your goal is to monetize, maybe your goal is to get more exposure, maybe your goal is to get in front of a different audience or community that you haven't been able to tap into yet. Whatever that is, if you learn this method, it can work for you. And I think, Tori, your journey of how you've been able to approach that is a true testament to that, because you don't just look at it from that very kind of, which this way works, but just kind of that one-dimensional way of, I'm going to pitch X brand, they're going to give me X money, and then I'm going to post X thing. You're like, no, I want to work with this brand long term. And that's kind of from that original conversation that we had months ago, that I was like, I want you to be thinking about like bigger picture. I want you to be thinking about like, you become the go-to expert for this company whenever they want to host retreats, whenever they want to do workshops, whenever they want to do anything. And that really does begin and end with building relationships. And even with your, story with Megan, you now have this great relationship that, you wouldn't have had unless you had the foresight, the vision, the belief, the wherewithal, and the possibility to actually make that happen. And so I would love to kind of hear a little bit more from you on, how you've been able to integrate and kind of use some of the principles that we teach to continue to build upon, what you've already been doing as a yoga instructor.
So one of them is that you would say for every pitch, like you're going to come back with 9 no's for 1 yes. Or I want you to come back and I want you to have 30 no's, because it means you probably got 3 yeses. And so it really is going after it time and time again. One other thing, I hope you make this an original audio for a reel, because it would be so good, where you say, that your beliefs have to be greater than your excuses. Because it's true. You have to get up and be willing to take the action over and over and over again. Because I could pitch this brand that we talked about and eventually become their go-to expert, or it might not happen with that brand, but I can pitch 30 others and it could happen with one of them. Will happen with whichever one it's meant to happen, but I have to keep putting myself out there to do it. It's happened anytime any influencer puts out, I'm looking for a yoga mobility instructor. Well, they get a DM from me immediately. Or like, I know you're in New York and I'm in Alabama. I know you're in LA and I'm in Alabama, but I'm really good at what I do. And I'm going to get in your inbox some way. And it's not going to happen for all of them, but it might happen for two. Again, just a mindset shift of how am I going to put myself in front of people, because nobody's going to find me if I don't put myself there. And I have to do it enough times and be willing to get back to it every single time that it might not work out, or I might not feel like it or be as motivated to do it. And that's where the discipline aspect comes in, and taking those repeated actions and be willing to do that. Because I think a lot of times we can get stuck in wanting to be taught and get stuck in wanting to be inspired. And that goes beyond our level of commitment to taking the actions that we need to actually take to get stuff done.
Yeah, I think that's a great way of putting it. And it does go back to, if you're not making offers, you don't get paid. If you're not making offers, you don't grow. If you're not making offers, you're not building engagement. It all stems from the offer. And so that's why I love to get no's, because if you come to me and you're like, Julie, I have 30 no's, what that has told me is that you have made a lot of offers. And that is the goal. The goal is to not get all yeses. The goal is to make a lot of offers, to get a lot of no's, because you're going to get a lot of no's, but all you need is 1, 2, 3 yeses to then build and grow from there. And that, I think that's the other shift, is that people think that they need to get a yes from every single brand in order to be successful. And that's just not the case. What you need to do is make offers, because what people, since they believe that, then they just don't make it any offers at all, which means like, well, an offer is better than no offer. So it's the willingness to be able to learn how to do it the right way. So you're actually making better offers. You're learning from your no's, you're tweaking your offer, and then you're going back out to the marketplace to make more of them. And that's really where you learn even what a brand wants from you. Tori, you're not going to know unless you're going in and making the offers about what a brand would find valuable at a workshop or a retreat or on an app or whatever it may be, from what you can offer with your expertise.
Well, I love that you always say, like, get the information from the no. Like, the yes doesn't tell you anything, but from the no, you can get a lot. And I think for me, that's just helped me sharpen what I offer and always run a fine-tooth comb over how much value am I providing to this brand, because they can pay me whatever their budget is. But if I give them really great value that they can use in X number of ways, then the chances that we're going to have a longer partnership or a better collaboration overall are much greater.
What are some of the things that you have been really surprised about since you have started learning the right way to pitch and really putting yourself out there and making those offers?
There is usually a real person on the other side of the computer or the phone. I think a lot of times we get intimidated starting out that this is a huge company, but really there's a person that probably wants the same sort of connection that I do, that wants to know that I've been paying attention, that I've done my homework, that I know that we are aligned to a certain extent. And that, with a little bit of being polite in your email, can go a really long way to at least getting a response from brands and people that I never would have thought I'd even get a response from.
That's so true. The other thing that we have been doing this year that's been new inside Pitch It Perfect is the coaching calls. Mm-hmm. That was something that previous to 2022 was not offered inside the container. And now it's a part of Pitch It Perfect. If you join Pitch It Perfect, you get access to coaching calls with me and office hours from me and pitch audits and, a bunch of other things. What have you really found to be the most valuable piece from that coaching component?
Well, I love getting the opportunities to ask you specific questions. That, to me, in and of itself, for anybody who's considering this, the fact that I can get on a call with you and say, I've come up against this roadblock, either in an email, trying to get on the phone with somebody, or even just a mindset shift that I need some help getting through is huge. So for me, that in and of itself, having access to those calls is huge. And then also the likelihood that one or two other people on the call will ask some sort of question that will open up a bigger conversation that is valuable to everybody. I think that is a big one too. Just that every conversation that we have on there, I can extract something that is beneficial to me. And if not today, it might be in 2 weeks.
And that's what I love about, a group container is, a lot of times people will automatically in their brains, they'll compare private one-on-one to group. And they're like, well, I need private one-on-one in order to succeed. And I'm like, well, first off, those two things are completely different. It's like comparing apples to oranges. So why are you even comparing those two things? It's like comparing I need to go to the dentist, but I also need to get my eyes checked. Well, you may need to do both. You know what I mean? It's like, depending on what's going on, you may need to go get your eyes checked and you also may need a dentist. So let's not compare the two. One of the things that I always try to advocate for when it comes to that group component is that it has nothing to do with private one-on-one. You're going to learn so much, not only from me, the coach, but from the other members in the community, because they're going to ask something or they're going to say something that is just going to spark something in you that you weren't even consciously aware of, and you would have never been gifted that amazing gift that is that now if you weren't in that container. And so I love that you talked about that, because that's the biggest thing that I love to say to people is like, why are you comparing one-on-one coaching to group coaching? They're two completely different things, and they're both incredibly valuable. But don't downplay group coaching just because you're comparing it to private one-on-one coaching. Group coaching still has an incredibly valuable place in the market, and I think that that's something that keeps a lot of people, again, it's like the excuse that we make. It keeps a lot of people stuck because they tell themselves that the only way that they can succeed is with private one-on-one coaching. So I would just love your thoughts on that. You've kind of had both, even kind of with me to some degree. You've had both sides.
Yes, that's true. And it's been so valuable from both sides of it too. But I also have relationships with other people that were in my containers or currently are. I probably Zoom with Nikki once every week or two, and we are still like bouncing off ideas. I talked to Beth Ann, I talked to Erden. So it's also being able to send a quick voice memo to somebody in the group where you think, oh, they have been through something similar before, or they might have a really good perspective on this. So it's not just that I get amazing coaching from you, but the women that I've met in here are sharp, and they are really, really great resources as well. So having that community aspect and having 10 other people that you can get feedback from is awesome.
It really is, especially in a container like this. Pitching and learning how to monetize your content, learning how to collaborate and partner with companies and brands. You want to know as much as you can know. Like, you want to hear how other people are doing it. It's not really something that I would ever want to silo off in a private capacity, just because you would automatically be limiting yourself with the amount of quality and valuable information that you would otherwise get in a group capacity. And it's still incredibly intimate. I'm still one-on-one coaching you and one-on-one talking to you and one-on-one being there for you, and everyone's question gets answered. Nobody leaves a call floating in the wind. It's just not private. It's just not private and siloed off into this little room by itself. And so I think that that's a huge thing that a lot of times, no matter what container you're in or what you're doing, I just think across the board when it comes to coaching, that's something that it's an important conversation to have. So I appreciate you kind of lending yourself to that. So before we wrap up, I would love to know what's next for you when it comes to building relationships and collaborating with brands and really building these long-term partnerships.
Hopefully some really long-term partnerships. So I was thinking about somebody this morning that I got an email back from a few days ago that I was like, I can't believe she opened my email. I can't believe she wrote me back. And hopefully it will turn into a long-term client, but hopefully some other partnerships too in the wellness space, as far as eating, meditation, that full body inside and out. So it's still, for me, the 1-2 punch approach of how can I help somebody else create value for what they're already doing, And then how can I put myself right up there with them?
Oh, I love that. And if there's anyone listening that they're just on the fence with investing in themselves, they're on the fence about pitching, they want to do it, they've been curious about it, but they're just like, I don't know, is this for me? What would you say to that person?
That investing in somebody who already knows what they're doing and what that roadmap is there's not really a price tag that you can put on that once you're on the other side of it and you know the benefit of it. There was a 𝗝𝐸 video where he says you can have the skills, the character, or the beliefs. You have to have all three of those to be able to do something. Skills are the things that you can go out and buy to be able to figure out what you need to know to do. Character is how you show up every day and do the thing. But beliefs can be the trickiest thing to conquer, to have that shift. And so for me, you were all three of those things of here's how you do it. This is the roadmap. And you do it over and over again. No matter how many no's you get, you keep doing it. And you think really big because the sky's the limit. Like, how far can you take this? And who can you go with and do that with? So for me, it was every one of those things that I needed to be able to grow a successful brand or to start to grow one. I was able to get in this container.
It's amazing. And we've loved having you. You've been such a just incredible part to our community. And I love your approach and just to see you grow. It's been amazing. So Tori, please let everybody know where they can find you. And if anyone has any questions or if you've had any aha moments or you just want to ask Tori something, feel free to slide into her DMs. I know she won't mind. She hangs out in her DMs like I do. So share with us where they can reach out to you.
I am on Instagram. It is at Tori Prendergast, TORIPRENDERGAST, because it's a doozy of a last name. And I am on my website at ToriFit@.vhx.tv.
Thank you so much, Tori, for being here. I so appreciate you.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate you. And I am so grateful for every bit of knowledge, wisdom, and encouragement that you've given to me over the last 8 months and many more to come.